Hello. This morning, today, we're going to be addressing the Awareness Continuum. So I'll be talking a little bit about the background of the Awareness Continuum, a little bit about how it's foundational to the practice, to Gestalt practice, whether we call it counseling, therapy, or just an awareness practice. And I'm going to be talking also about how we do the Awareness Continuum, because it is a practice and it takes some practice. So with that, I'll be offering some examples sprinkled through our talk this morning. So the Awareness Continuum, as you can tell by its name, is talking about the continuation of awareness in a relationship. So Naranjo, who's written our basic text, Gestalt Therapy, talks about the Awareness Continuum as a practice of relational meditation, because the practice of mindfulness is at its root. The practice of bare attention are the practice of being in what Pearls like to call the how and the now. So there are three aspects of Gestalt that are really crucial that Naranjo names and that we see in the Awareness Continuum. The first one is awareness. Okay, very, very simple. That the practice is helping someone stay in awareness. It's as if you, the therapist or the counselor, are the part of the person's mind that says, come back to now, come back to now. So you're providing that function for the person you're working with to help them stay in the now. Because in this theory, that's all there is. So awareness is an essential component. And the second essential component in Gestalt is actuality. And so the one naturally flows into the other. Awareness brings us into what is actually occurring, not a fantasy about the past or a fear about the future or, mulling over something that's reflecting on it. It is just bare attention to what is. So it brings us into what actually is. And this is the healing component of this work. So the third quality of Gestalt is responsibility. That if we're aware, brings us into what's actually there, we naturally respond. We naturally are present. We're naturally compassionate towards ourselves and others. So these three things are foundational to the Awareness Continuum and to Gestalt itself. So we'll talk about this first idea. Pearls used to lecture on the how and the now of Gestalt work. And so the how means not so much the storyline that somebody's telling you, but how they're telling it. What is actually occurring? And so we often read that in the body or the way the words are vocalized. So that's what we're paying attention to, how things are occurring, not so much what is being said. Although a word that's highly charged might be something to explore as the how of how a story is being told by someone. It's not to say the story's wrong, but we don't want to get caught in sort of the storyline and miss what's actually occurring in the moment. Okay, so there's guiding someone to stay in the present moment as that part of one's mind, you might say. And I'd like to compare it to how Jon Kabat-Zinn works with chronic pain. What he does with individuals, with mindfulness, is he helps them stay with their pain and notice that it's not just pain, that it's evolving and changing moment by moment. Here it is, here it's sharp, here it's dull, here it vibrates, here it oscillates. So in doing that, he helps people find gaps in the pain to rest. He helps them discover that it's not just searing pain, that it changes and it's more workable. So you might say this work helps us do that with our emotions and our feelings. We help people explore their pain and their resistance to it, that we can open up and then offer healing. So the first piece of staying present, and then how to help someone observe, how to be that part of this big mind that you're sharing together moment by moment with one another, how to help them observe that clearly and with compassion in a way that helps them stay there even if it's difficult. So how to help observations, and then part of that observation is noticing where the charge is with a client or someone you're trying to help. So the charge often has to do with energy. So we're helping someone notice, and you're noticing where the charge is so we can address and attend to that. Now the charge could be big, like or it hurts. It could be something like that. But it could be something that you notice somebody's just kind of, there's a squeak in their voice, there's a catch in their voice. It's hardly noticeable, but that's where the charge is. That's where something's trying to come out and something's holding back. So we're noticing that energy that is happening, and that's where the charge is. So we're going to talk about more about that today, but throughout the semester. So we've got the charge, and then we're going to look at methods of how we work with the energy that we're noticing. So the method might be, repeat that, say that again, so we're not glossing over something. Or it might be exaggerate that. Say it a little louder. Say it with more energy. If somebody is, say, putting their fist in their hand while they're saying it, you might say, do that again. So they're repeating it. You might mirror that with your hand. So they're seeing, you're seeing it, but you're also having the opportunity to feel it yourself. So you might have them repeat that and then do it more. And then what are you aware of as you do that? So you're bringing more attention to a block, something that's stopping the energy, and the energy itself that's trying to push and move forward. So we might exaggerate, but we also might do something that Narangho refers to as, instead of exaggerating it, we suppress it. Now, that word sort of puts shivers down most people's spine. But what he's meaning by that is not hold it back, but stop the habituated pattern, suppress the habituated pattern. So it might be that somebody says something that's very painful and they smile. And that smile is the habituated response to sort of glance, like suppressing the energy itself of the pain. It might be the smile is there to say to the other person, oh, it's not that big. Or the smile might be, I'm going to make you comfortable because I don't want you to have to feel all this pain. So we as therapists actually want to feel that pain. And that person, by that suppression, by the holding back through the smile, is actually keeping them from making contact and getting the help they need, because somebody has to know about their pain. So we might ask that person, it might be in a third or fourth session, because we might have been noticing this smile for a while, that every time they talk about a loss in their family, they have this habituated pattern of smiling, or looking away, or having their voice lowered, so you hardly hear it. So we might ask them at some point, would you be willing to say more about your loss, and you'll probably be specific, when your dog died, when your sister passed, whatever it is, would you be willing to say that to me without smiling? So that's a technique that we use to help somebody contact their pain. And I promise you, I've done this over and over with individuals, and all of a sudden the tears come. All of a sudden they're willing to share more of the depth of their pain. So that, believe it or not, is suppressing, but what it's suppressing is the habituated response of someone to deflect their pain. So we have exaggeration and we have suppression. So this actually will give people more choice in the future about how they want to go after what they need in this lifetime. So we talk about the how and now. We use that. I'm going to talk more about that today. But it has to be in a relationship that is meaningful, meaning you and them. And that relationship, we like to talk about it in Gestalt as the I-thou relationship. Pearls borrowed this from Martin Buber. Religious existentialism, deeply in his Judaic tradition, but existential, meaning also he's concerned about the present moment, about existence as it is. So the I and thou relationship is a setting where we can ask these very direct questions. We can request someone to not do the conflicted behavior, or we can ask them to exaggerate, because the I and thou relationship means the thou, the other, is a mystery, is the unknown. We make no assumptions about the other. The other is actually sacred, and we treat the person like that. We are always curious. We always make no assumptions. We relate to them as an I-thou instead of an I-it, what Buber contrasted, where the other is an object to get something from. Like in a therapeutic relationship, I manipulate you to say things that'll help you move through your experience. No, I request that you tell me that I hear the pain. So we have this sort of humanistic encounter plus the I-thou, which has both humanistic and transpersonal roots with this. So we often use language to get at the how and the now through this I-thou relationship. And the language has to be direct, like in my example. It has to be very minimal. It has to be warmth. You have to have warmth with it. And it has to be very simple. Because the more complicated we make the request, the more the opportunity is the person to digress and explain to us about their problem and not show us their pain. So we use language. We say things like, tell me what you are aware of right now. So we often don't say, can you tell me what you're feeling? Because when we say, can you tell me, the person goes in their head, can I do that? And we don't want to have to go through that sort of trap that makes them think about it. We want a more direct and personal experience with them. So we are actually saying, tell me. I want to have your experience in me. So it's very personal. And we only ask one question. We don't say, well, could you tell me if it's this or that or this? Because they're going to have to think about that, and they're going to not have a direct experience. And we also use that word now. Tell me what you're aware of right now, even right now. It's like, pooh, they can't get around you. But there is a way that if you feel you need to be a little more delicate, I often combine Marshall Rosenberg's work with nonviolent communication. And I'll ask them, would you be willing to tell me what you're experiencing right now? Would you be willing? And that's a very inviting way of requesting some experience. So that's another way to get at it if you feel you need to be a little softer with your request. Now, there's another thing we can do that helps to bring immediacy and directness. We might say, would you be willing to tell me what you're aware of in your body right now? Now, for some people, it's, oh, my head hurts, I've got stomach ache. And other people, it's like, what? My body? Where is that? Okay, so we might gently go into that. Or as they're telling us something like, oh, my gut hurts, tell me more about what you're feeling in your gut right now. That would be like Jon Kabat-Zinn. Let's explore that more in detail. So these are all ways of getting there, of getting this direct experience. And once we start to get the direct experience, we can ask for more. One of the ways, a phrase that's very easy, say more. Would you be willing to say more about that fist? Would you be willing to say more? Say more about how you feel in this moment. Say more. Okay. Would you be willing to show me more with your fist what's going on? Your throat, I noticed, your voice is cracking. So not only we're asking to say more, we're starting to observe and share our observation. So when we share their observation and we ask them to say more, we're going deeper, okay? We're beginning to make reports of awareness also. Down the road, when somebody says, I feel kind of sick in my stomach, you might say, wow, when you said that, I do too. So we're also sharing more about our experience, our very direct experience. We're not analyzing about that tummy feeling. We're not trying to connect it to Dad right now, but we're trying to stay in the present. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what doesn't work, like, can you tell me more? Here's another thing that is so common in therapy, it's a cliche. What are you feeling right now? Well, believe it or not, when we ask what we're feeling right now, often we get a thought. Well, I'm feeling kind of like I don't like him. I'm feeling like it's not such a good idea. I'm feeling that he's somebody. So it's not a feeling, it's a thought. But that feeling word gets attached to often I feel like or I feel that. So we try to actually avoid that question in this work. So sticking to what are you experiencing, what are you feeling, or what are you experiencing in your body, what are you aware of, describe that more, say more, all those things, you're more likely to get something more direct in the here and now. I'd like to share a quote from Pearls with you, and it directly addresses where we're going. He says, it's the awareness, the full experience of being stuck. When you have that, that's where recovery is. So we want to go to those stuck places, those places where the voice cracks, the places where a person can't keep going with their sentence, the place where their eyes start to tear up. So we might say somebody's starting to feel something, and you might say, I notice your eyes are starting to well up. Because a lot of times people don't get that reflection. The eyes well up and then they're on to talking about something else. But when we stop and say, I notice your eyes are welling up, you're more likely to get the person to drop deeper into their sadness, into what is happening in the moment. And we gave that example of the fist. So we might say, I noticed that fist. Would you be willing to exaggerate that, to squeeze the fist even harder? Okay? They start to slump their shoulders. Would you be willing to, curl in more? What do you feel as you curl in? What do you feel as you tighten your fist? What are you experiencing in that moment? So we're going to get closer to it. So we're looking for the charge in those moments. What word is charged? What body sensation is charged? What we see is charged. Often when I'm working with somebody, there'll be red coming up in their throat, and then there's a line where it stops right there, and it's white, and there's energy coming up. So tell me more what's coming up for you in this moment. Be surprised. You notice somebody starts to bite their lip, and you might say, bite it some more. Tell me what you're aware of. Or you might say, were you about to say something to me? What were you about to say? And there it is. Because that biting their lip is a way of holding back energy. I shouldn't say that. I can't say that. It's not safe to say that. And you're trying to create that safe environment to say that. Okay. So we've talked about mirroring what we're seeing in their behavior. We've talked about repeating, asking somebody to repeat something. We've asked them to exaggerate it or suppress it, the habituated behavior. And it may be, we do this for 5 minutes, and that's about enough that they've never spent 5 minutes in the here and now. Okay. That's okay. It may be one question and you're there. It may be 20 minutes of exploring before you really find the charge and you want to go deeper. You want to ask more questions about, when do you feel this way? Who said that to you? What more happened in that experience? But we're not going to go there yet, okay? That's further down the road. I want you to get really good at these initial practices of the awareness continuum, because we tend to slip back in our own habituated process. We tend, when anger comes up, maybe we get a lump in our throat and ask something else, or we start to hunch over. So we're watching for our own responses, because they may be empathetic, but they may be our own resistance, our own feeling of, I don't want to go there. So practicing this awareness continuum with your cohorts in this program is going to be a great opportunity for both of you to stop at any moment and say, wow, what happened? Wow, I just left the room. Wow, when you said that, I noticed this. So this is going to be a really fertile sort of playground to practice this awareness continuum with one another. And you're going to be doing this a lot in our class this first semester. And it's often the first step of a Gestalt session with a client. So I will tell you there'll be times when you'll need to take a time out when you're practicing. There'll be a time in actual counseling that you'll be wanting to take a time out. There'll be times that you're going to hit trauma of your client or maybe your own. And there's a lot more you're going to want to know about how to work with that. And this is a very powerful modality to getting to a trauma, touching it, and maybe backing off a little bit, but touching it and exploring and finding out about it. So you're going to be noticing, where is the aliveness? Where are the congruencies? When a person is truly expressing anger and they seem congruent, oh, I'm angry, or they're truly expressing excitement and happiness. So we're going to notice where the congruencies are. But particularly in this work, we're going to be focusing on where are the incongruencies, okay? When are they saying something like, I really love him, and there's a crack in the voice, and you wonder, I wonder if something else is going on. Or I'm really angry, and there's not angry energy, there's just dull energy. So there's something going on that's incongruent, and that's where the stuckness is. That's where we really want to pay attention. And that's when we're going to start noticing these things called polarities, something we're going to talk about and explore more. But one part has a strong feeling and another part wants to hold it back, or there's a deadening. So we're going to watch, where are they dead and where are they alive? Okay? Where are they excited and where are they slumped down? Where is their anger, but where is their holding back? And it's not like we want to have them go out and express something that might not work out there in the world. We want them to express it in our office so they can know, how do I integrate my anger? How do I work with it in a way that is either going to keep me in relationship or keep good boundaries with others? So, that example of smiling, the example when somebody says, oh, it doesn't matter, but we notice that coloring in their neck. We notice their cheeks all of a sudden turn red, and you know it matters. It matters. But you want to have them say more about, tell me what doesn't matter. Tell me more what doesn't matter. And pretty soon they're going to be telling you things that matter. Because it's not going to make sense when they tell you, oh, relationship doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I ever find love. It doesn't matter if I ever find a job. It does matter. Okay, so in this work, you're going to become a master of reading body language. You are going to be using every observational tool. And one thing I've often noticed when coaching, practice, therapists, they don't look at their client. They're not hearing. One of the things that I love that Naranjo said, he says, I have eyes and ears and I am not afraid. I have eyes and ears and I am not afraid. And that's where I want you to grow into and to be able to coach your client into. So I'm going to be coaching, look. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Where does the voice tone change? Where's that crack in the voice? Okay. So people often say, I don't want, I don't need, I'm stupid, that was so stupid. And so down the road you're going to be saying, who said you were stupid? You're going to be following that up. But in the meantime, you're going to say, before you get to there, would you be willing to say, I don't again? Would you be willing to say, I don't? Forget the content. Have them say, I don't, and you're going to find some more energy. In the future, it's going to be, I don't want people telling me I'm stupid. I don't want this. But we're just going to work with not the content, but the process. So, the last piece I want to talk about is details. We want to get details. We don't want these vague abstractions. We want to know the how in the now. We want to know when somebody's, this reminds me of my dad's voice. It's like he hit me with my voice. Tell me more. Tell me more how that feels in your fist. Tell me more how your palm feels when you hit it. Because they're expressing how someone hit them with their voice, or maybe actually did physically abuse them. But they're moving that energy, which is really important. But eventually you're going to find out, what did they say? What did that person say to you? So you want the details. And we often hear the devil's in the detail, meaning in this regard, the incongruency is in the details. Are the pain and the sufferings in the details? And we've also heard the phrase, God is in the details. So what's profound might be in the details, as well as what's profane, what's painful. So, as we're doing this work, we're watching for the other, but we're shuttling our attention back and forth, and we're watching for our own congruencies, and when we hit the mark with ourselves and with our client. So, say we have an example from a client where they feel they've been closeted. Maybe their sexual identity, their true nature in that regard, they've had to closet, or they've had to closet their feelings, or somebody actually locked them in a closet. So we want to listen, but we want to inquire. Because when somebody just tells a story, we don't know how it feels. So if someone likes to just talk, and we know it's hard to get a word in edgewise, we may have to coach them beforehand. You know, as you're telling me about a situation, I'm going to ask for a timeout now and then for you to notice what you're aware of. So I'm just going to let you know that's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to interrupt a little bit. And some people, that's going to be easy, and some people, you may get one interruption in when you want to find out what they're experiencing. And another thing about this work in relationship, because I want to circle back to that and kind of end with focusing on the relationship in this work about how we relate. Going back to the I and now, that in meditation, somebody's just by themselves. So a lot of the work doesn't have to do about the interruptions in relationship. The interruption is my mind goes here. My mind goes there. In relationship, there's a way I deflect from what's actually happening too. So we're learning about how someone deflects in relationship, because it's in relationship that most suffering arises in the context of this work, in how others have treated us and how we form an identity around that. So back to the here and now in the context of the I and now. So I'm going to end here. Thank you very much.